should do so. And if it's on Sunday, but I think it's important so that we can make sure we are, again, making sure that we are treating everybody that goes to the criminal justice system in a fair way. Thank you very much. With that, I would like people to say a better word, so I would like to ask.
When somebody's arrested for a crime, the winner should not be the state of Texas and the criminal defense attorney. The winner should be the community, and that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to change. So, one of the issues that I have is that when you are a professional and you're doing your job, and you get arrested while doing your job, think a public school teacher who has to make the decision very quickly whether or not to go hands-on with a student who is out of hand. That person needs to know if criminal charges are filed. The teaching community needs to understand why the criminal charges were filed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in members of the teaching community to explain that. Same thing goes for nurses, same thing goes for police officers. These are critical professions, licensed professions, and a criminal accusation can ruin their lives. And so you want them to be able to act freely and do the right thing without worrying that they're going to be targeted by the district attorney's office. I don't know what that job is like. I've never been a nurse, never been a public school teacher, I've never been a police officer. So we need to make sure that we explain why we're prosecuting these cases to members of that community. The reason I ran for district attorney, when Donald Trump got elected the second time, I began asking myself, sincerely, I believed that he was a threat to our democracy. And I asked myself, what's the elected official that can be a most effective check against that authoritarianism? We have an authoritarian in Austin, Texas. I would never put my name on the ballot with Greg Abbott as a Republican, never ever. It's disgusting. It's what Ms. Chacon did in 2022 when she ran for district attorney. So we have to have somebody who's willing to see themselves as a check against that authoritarianism. The way that I've been expressing that is by talking about how I'm going to do grand jury investigations into the ICE raids. But I will also provide that check every single opportunity that I can. Our minority communities, our community in general, is threatened by what he's doing. Donald Trump, Greg Abbott, sending those agents into our community, it's threatened. And we need to make sure that we elect somebody who recognizes that threat and is ready to act against it. I'm that person. I see that as a core and fundamental belief. And that's the reason that you should support me for district attorney. Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Chacon, what does corruption look like inside the DA's office, and why are you running for DA?
I want you to know that I think corruption inside a district attorney's office would happen if a district attorney's office was led solely by political reasons and not by justice. I worked there from 1999 until 2018, and I left in 2018 because I did not choose to work for the person that was then elected, who is now the DA, because I felt like he was driven only by political interest. He had told me years before he had no interest in being a prosecutor. It was beneath him when we had a case together. He ran only because he was given PAC money from out of this county, from out of this state, and I didn't want to work for someone that was driven by political interest. Now, the line prosecutors that I know and the people that are still there working every day in court, I do not believe are corrupt. We hold our oath to be very, very, very important. And I told you I wouldn't lie to you, and I don't lie to you, and I don't lie about it, Shannon. I don't hide it. I did run before, and you know what? This time, when Judge Randhell said he wasn't going to run, and I was supporting him in that because I didn't want to have to do this because I'm a prosecutor, not a politician. I had people all over the courthouse come to me and say, we need you to run, Meredith. Democrats, Republicans, independents begged me to run because they knew that I could turn it around. Prosecutors who have been there for years approached me the morning, and I filed the last day, the morning that I filed, and said to me, because you have filed, I can hang on another day because I was ready to walk out. That is why I run. I love this job. I love this office. I love this community, and I want to protect you. I've already told you why I switched parties. It's very personal and very emotional and very real to me, and I'm being honest with you when I say that was a true choice. It would have been easier to go run over there again and then try to maybe somehow pull over crossover support. That would have been the easy road. But I'm in an 8-man primary because this is the party that I align with, and this is where I'm going to be. I will protect your children. I have stood in front of juries and asked for and received life sentences stacked and stacked and stacked when those little girls or little boys have told me they've been hurt. I have helped be their voice. I have built teams across the state in how we investigate and how we use trauma-informed things when we're doing our investigations, best practices. Those things are important. So there will never be a time when a Democrat or a Republican comes to my office and tells me to make a decision based only on political things, because that is corrupt. I will do what is right, and if I do something you don't agree with, I will be happy to sit down and discuss it with you. And if any of you here want to sit down and discuss with me why I changed parties, I will sit down and have that discussion with you, and I will answer any question that you have. But know that my heart is true, and that I will protect the people of Bexar County. Thank you.
All right, the next oh, I'm sorry, yes,
No worries, Judge.
thank you. So, Mr. Salinas, what does corruption look like inside the DA's office, and why are you running for DA?
Thank you, Your Honor. So corruption in the DA's office, it does look like different outcomes for different people, for different defendants based on socioeconomic background. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Like I mentioned, first-generation college student. I'm from Brownsville, Texas. Went to the public schools there, and what I can tell you, at the time I went, it was one of the worst in the country. And that was the reality. My wife, her parents immigrated here from Mexico, also first-generation college student, and she's a nurse. I don't have $100,000 to lend to myself. I don't. My wife doesn't have $100,000 to give to this campaign. We serve the community and the public. That's the reality. But we've worked hard to give our kids what they have. And so, because of those experiences, corruption in the DA's office is that different outcomes based on person's socioeconomic class and whether they can get a different type of justice. And so what I'm advocating for is that the point of our office is to do what's right in each and every case. Because that is what true justice is. I don't care if you have the fanciest criminal defense lawyer. I don't care if you have a public defender or a court-appointed one. So why am I running? Yeah, I'm 37 years old. I'm young. Although I worked out this morning, I didn't feel too young this morning. But what I can tell you is, my wife and I, we have a lot invested in this community. We're raising our 2 kids here. They're still children. We want this office to be the best for them. But not only for them, for everybody in this room, for everybody in this community. And I think everybody up here wants that too. No one wants the office to take a step back. But, as Jane mentioned, we're going to put people in the courts to make sure that we hold violent offenders accountable so they don't come home, so they don't victimize their victims, so they don't abuse children. Well, I'm currently doing that. I do that at the office. Is this job tough? Oh yeah, it is. There are some cases that never leave my mind. Probably never will. Will it be fixed as soon as I take office? No, of course not. I'm not going to promise you something I can't keep. But what I can promise you is my best effort. Looking at what we have in the office, how can we restructure it? How can we make it better tomorrow for you? Because the reality is, we can't say that, if we just add more funding, or if we're going to get them more funding, then it'll be better. We have to look internally. We have to have that self-reflection so we can take a step forward. Hope for the best. Hope that we do get that funding. But the first thing that we need to do is look, self-reflection, make sure that we can make this office the most effective and efficient that it can be. Thank you.
All right, the next question is 2 minutes, and we'll start with Ms. Davis. Recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
What has happened today is a tragedy in Minnesota, the new shooting that happened this morning. I abhor what ICE is doing. I don't think the DA's office is in a position to investigate the whole federal agency. I think that's a waste of time and energy. What I would do as DA is to make sure that when a case is brought, if the DA had it, that if evidence was seized with an administrative warrant, that we would not have to honor that warrant. We need a judicial warrant before somebody goes into somebody's house, before a federal agent goes into somebody's house. So I would not honor the administrative warrants. I would make sure that the office supports law enforcement in having a safe place for people to protest. I would want them to be heard. I guess I want it to get so hard for the ICE people that it's almost not worth their time to bother us. I think that people should come here legally, yes, but I don't think that we should be trying to separate families, jerk little 5-year-old children away from their parents, and send them to Dilley, Texas, when their parent is in Minnesota. I think it's terrible. So I would do everything I could within the law, as DA, to stop this problem.
All right, Ms. Powers, recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
I think you're probably, well, let me start with, it's a very dark time in our country. In all of these horrible, horrendous events that are happening at the hands of the federal government are very, very concerning. They make everybody fearful. It's a bad time in our country. I don't think anybody up here is going to say anything very different. Well, most of us won't say anything very different, but I will say is I think everyone can respect and can understand how dark and ugly it is, and that we don't want to see all the things that we are seeing. We don't want to see families torn apart. We don't want to see anything that's happening. We don't want to see any killings. We don't want to see all of these awful things that are happening to our neighbors and our friends and our members of the community. I will echo Jane a little bit here when I say that, of course, the district attorney cannot investigate the federal government. Like, that's basic, right? Nobody here is going to say anything different. I think most everybody here will also say that any person that commits a crime, a state crime, any law enforcement officer, any regular person, me, anyone out there, anybody that commits a crime, I would venture to guess that my opponents up here are all going to say, well, we want to hold those people accountable. And that's what I'm going to say here. Everything that's happening around us is very, very gross and horrible. We are limited. The district attorney is limited. There are limitations. There are some authorities in place, but there are limitations. And I think what's important is that we recognize that everybody here would want to hold somebody that's breaking the law accountable. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Locke, recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
So those actions are also crimes, and they need to be investigated. Jaime Alberto Quintanilla Chavez, he had his case dismissed. He was charged with using force against an immigration officer. What did he do? His license plate was called in, probably by somebody who had a vendetta against him. The ICE agents surrounded his vehicle, they broke his window, and when the agent cut his arm on the broken glass, they charged him with assaulting the police officer. They pulled him out of his car, they bloodied his nose, they bloodied his mouth, they pointed guns at his head. Those things are crimes. They happened in Bexar County. Those people have not been prosecuted. They need to be prosecuted. They need to be investigated. Government Code Section 41.1009 gives the district attorney's office the ability to hire investigators who have the same powers as sheriffs. Jane, you know that sheriffs can initiate investigations, and they can. And the district attorney's office can. Not the entire agency, but the specific agents who in that moment had arrested somebody who couldn't be removable, who wasn't removable, and who broke the law. They need to be held accountable. I'd present that information to the grand jury. When the grand jury indicted them, a warrant would issue, and then we would argue in federal court, where I practice every week. We would argue in federal court whether or not they have federal immunity. I will hold ICE accountable, ICE agents accountable. I will absolutely do that. It's a core belief, and it's something that we have to do. And not everyone on this stage thinks it's horrible. Some of us sing songs about it, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And when other candidates agree with that candidate, that's also disgusting, and it should be alarming. That was one of the most if you look at Mr. Wolf's social media, he sings songs about people breaking in and waking up immigrants so that they can be deported. Absolutely unacceptable, disqualifying. And the fact that we have other candidates praising him on this stage, on this democratic stage, is disgusting and unacceptable and disqualifying.
Ms. Chacon, recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
I think one thing that the district attorney can do in Bexar County as a public figure and as a person who is the head law enforcement official in the county is make sure that we are educating the public about what their rights are with regard to these warrants, because they are not allowed to enter your home if they don't have a warrant that is signed by a judge. But not everybody knows or understands that. So if it comes from an office of authority, like the district attorney, and the person knows that the district attorney is not going to prosecute them for not opening that door, then people will feel safer knowing what their rights are and knowing what they can do. I will tell you, I think that a public education in partnership with local law enforcement to let people know what their rights are and what they can do when they are confronted by ICE and what they can say no to and how they can act. If we did that in partnership with the sheriffs and the chief of police and let everybody know this is what you're allowed, this is what we will protect here, that would go a long way to reduce the fear and to help people understand. Second thing I think is really important is that we need to make sure that our victims understand that we don't care about their status. I don't want them to be afraid to report a crime in Bexar County because they're worried that we are going to force them to be deported or cooperate with ICE and tell them where our victims are. Okay? I think that is an important and actual thing that the district attorney's office can do. And we also help victims with U visas as well so that they can gain status. That happens. I also want you to know that as a district attorney, if someone who is working for ICE or the FBI or the DEA or whoever, sheriff, if they commit a crime, we will prosecute it if it happens here in Bexar County. We are limited by state law and we are limited by our Bexar County jurisdiction to a certain extent, but we will prosecute it and we'll hold them accountable. Just like I've been holding people accountable my whole life. That's what you'll get from me. Thank you.
Mr. Salinas, recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
Thank you, Your Honor. So I've shared this story previously, but my grandfather, he came to this country across the river when he was 16 with 2 shirts, 2 pants, and 2 watermelons. And that's the reason why I'm even standing on this stage. So these issues, they hit near and dear to my heart. And the unfortunate reality is that it appears that the Trump administration does want to create second-class people within our community, within our country. And what I can tell you is that there are no second-class people at the district attorney's office. And like Meredith was saying, we need to make sure that our victims and our witnesses are educated that regardless of their regardless of their status within this country, they have access to the district attorney's office, that they are not going to be subject to deportation or telling by us. I also am one of the candidates up here that has experience prosecuting law enforcement officers. I've tried many, 7 to trial. Official oppression, violation of civil rights. So yes, if a law enforcement officer commits an offense within our county, we will prosecute them. We will refer cases. That's a job that the district attorney's office can do. We can refer them to agencies and then check on the status of that referral. Again, let's say what the reality is. If it was a bunch of Canadians or Europeans flooding the border, I don't think Trump would be sending a bunch of ICE agents to go and round them all up. But what is the reality? What is the truth? And we need to be honest with ourselves. It's a bunch of people who are trying to make a better life for themselves, coming into our country, just like my family did, just like my wife's family did, and now they have to live in fear because Trump wants to create second-class people within our country. That's the reality. And we need to be strong together as a people, strong together as a community, make sure that we get out there and vote, make sure that we register as many people that we can to vote, because that's the reality that we are confronted with in our community.
Mr. Wolf, recent ICE enforcement action in Minnesota have raised concern about warrantless entries and civil rights violations. How would you engage if similar actions occurred in Bexar County?
The loss of life is tragic, okay? I understand that, and it hurts families. Shannon, you call me disgusting. You call Meredith disgusting for being a Republican or being on a Republican ticket. You're calling half of this country disgusting. I would enforce the law against any law enforcement officer who acts outside of their authority and breaks a state crime, and I will not gaslight you all and tell you that I can bring the Trump or I can bring the governor or I can bring an ICE agent before our courts when it's a state jurisdiction court. I don't make light of the issue. I sympathize, I empathize. Empathy is the people knowing why they come here, and I empathize with that. But I do not sympathize with anybody that breaks our laws to get here. And this is a very personal issue for me, Mr. Locke. My wife is from Guadalajara, Mexico. For the last 4 years, we have been going through the legal process so she can get status here, so she can become a citizen. My stepdaughter resides with her father over in Mexico. Could we have brought her across the border years ago? For sure. We only just recently got approval so that she could be here. It's cost us thousands of dollars. I've been interviewed by people asking me whether or not I truly love my wife or not. So when I sing about it, what I sing about is, why are you so surprised when somebody comes and wakes you up when you broke the law to get here? I don't support any loss of life. I'm running as an independent so we can stop this grandstanding, I'm blue, I'm red. We are all human beings, for God's sakes. We all want to just live our lives, and we want to be safe in that. Do you think a criminal asks you what your party designation is when they stick a gun in your face? Of course not. I don't support the loss of life. I support law enforcement, and I do not want to divide us, Mr. Locke. And this is very personal to me, and you have crossed the line more than once. I welcome you to look at everything I've ever posted. Call the Wolf at TikTok. And if you don't like me, you don't want to vote for me, I understand that. There are people here you should vote for. Mr. Salinas, you should vote for Ms. Chacon. She has been here, she's done it. I think she could do a better job. She's a chief. You could vote for Jane Davis. She's somebody I'd keep in the office. The one man you shouldn't vote for is this man right here. You shouldn't vote for the woman that everybody is supporting who has no experience, and that's Chapa. Thank you all. I hope I get your support.
All right, everyone. It would be nice if we were here till midnight. However, there is one final question to answer. After that question is answered, then each candidate will have 2 minutes for their closing statements, and we are hopeful that when the general election happens, we will have another debate so people can get to know who those candidates will be. So this question is for 3 minutes, and I've combined it. It's how, and it goes to Ms. Powers, I believe you're first now. How will you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
Thank you. I may ask you to repeat that. Not yet. I want to address something first, if that's okay. How do I say that? We're all different. Clearly, we're all different. We are in this party, in different parties. I'm gonna agree with Mr. Wolf. I don't think that Jason has any interest in seeing these horrible things that are happening in our community. And I say that because Mr. Locke made a point to me about agreeing with Jason or whatever, and the singing. I don't know about the TikToks. I don't know about that stuff, okay? I don't watch it. But I don't believe that anybody up here wants to see harm caused to the community, and that includes Ms. Chacon, that includes Mr. Wolf, and it includes everybody, because we're all decent people, I promise. But I just wanted to make that clear. The question, I'm sorry, was about public pressure and the ability to make judgment and decisions. That is something that I have actually experience with every day. In our work as prosecutors, we make difficult decisions every day. We have to decide how to resolve cases. We have to decide whether we believe they are provable. Time and time again, there have been cases that as much as I wanted to be able to prove them, the evidence wasn't there for me to do so, or the prosecutors that I supervise. And so we weren't able to. So we have to, from time to time, reject a case or dismiss a case or plead a case. And then there's questions by the community as to, well, why this and why that and why this and why that. Those questions are not always answered, right? That's something that's important to me. I do think it's important to be able to explain why we're making these decisions, especially when they're hard, and especially when on paper they may look like they don't make sense. That is very important. But being able to make decisions in light of public pressure is something that I do every day. It's something that many of our prosecutors do every day in some capacity and on some level. I'm completely comfortable with it. I don't mind being criticized. People say mean things about me regularly, I'm sure. I'm a good person. I'm proud of the work that I do. I will continue to work hard. I will continue to fight for victims. I will continue to fight for fairness. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Locke, how will you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
Thank you so much, Your Honor. And Jason, I've never wanted somebody's support less, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So when public trust is at issue, what we have to have is a district attorney's office that is willing to communicate to the public. And so what you have to do, and this is the difficult job of the district attorney, is that sometimes you have to do the right thing and it is not the popular thing. But what people need to understand is the reason why. No targets, no favors. And you have to explain to the community, what is a crime? A crime is a harm to the community. The community has been injured. Against the peace and dignity of the state of Texas is what every prosecutor always says at the beginning of every case. Against the peace and dignity of the state of Texas. So if we're alleging a crime, or then we dismiss a case, or we go forward on it, we have to be able to explain how the peace and dignity of the state of Texas has been violated and why we're going to try to make it better. How we're going to try to make it better. How we're going to remove this person from the community if they continually harm the people around them or the people of the community. How we're going to rehabilitate this person. How we're going to help that person. How we're going to save this victim. That's what we have to do as the district attorney. And if you hide from social media, and Your Honor, your judicial term has been transformative. It has been. And transparency is so important. You have brought to light so much different aspects of the criminal justice system by putting your stuff on YouTube. And it is important that we not hide from social media as the next district attorney. I have a large social media following. And what I try to do in my social media following is I try to dispel the myths and educate people legally about the different rights that they have, the different ways that laws work, because people can get swept into the criminal justice system out of ignorance. And so that's what I want to stop. So you can use social media as a tool. It's just like anything else. The tool can be used for a good thing or the tool can be used for a bad thing. But if you don't use the tool, somebody else picks up that tool and does terrible things with it. And that's what we're seeing in Bexar County, is we're seeing that the tool has been left aside. And somebody who has, frankly, disgusting beliefs, looks like I'm pointing at Oscar, I'm not pointing at Oscar. I'm pointing straight at Jason Wolf. Somebody who has disgusting beliefs is allowed to broadcast those beliefs and get enthusiasm from the community. And it does divide our community. When you sing songs about our families getting woken up. Last night, we couldn't go to sleep. My wife was reading me the different stories. We couldn't sleep. She's here today. The trauma is so real, and the anger and the frustration is valid. And that anger and that frustration is based because our federal government is committing crimes against us. We need somebody ready on day one to address that, and that's what I'll do. Thank you very much.
Ms. Chacon, how will you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
I think that you can see from what I've said today that pressure doesn't bother me. I tried a case a few years ago that was very, very difficult to try because it was not a popular case at the courthouse because I was trying a defense attorney. And so that meant there were a lot of people that wanted to pick on me about that, a lot of people who wanted to say inappropriate and sexist and nasty things to me about that, and a lot of people who wanted to try and push me not to do that. And I stood firm because I stood up for those victims. And I did what nobody thought I could do. And I sent him to prison for 80 years because I didn't stop. I'm unstoppable, I'm relentless, and there is no amount of pressure that's going to back me down. And an interesting story, I'm also good at delivering bad news because I don't mind explaining to somebody why we had to make a decision they didn't like. It's just the way it is. The buck stops with the DA. And so for a period of time under the LaHood administration, it was my job to call every victim on a no-bill case, which means a grand jury did not indict, we're not going any further. Who got to deliver the bad news? Me. Because I knew that there was a legal reason why, and somebody had to put their big girl pants on and do it. So I did, and it was fine. And most of the time, those conversations went just fine, because I don't bow to pressure, and I'm not gonna bow to anybody's this, that, or the other, and I'm not gonna lie to you just to get votes or anything like that. I think social media is evil. I'm on it. I got on Facebook to see my military brat friends and where they were all over the world years ago, and I still like to look at those pictures, and I'm very, very cautious that my personal account isn't mixed up with my campaign account because I do have grown children and they didn't run for office. I think it has eroded our trust in what is real. It has eroded our trust in the government. It has eroded our trust in what really happened. You have echo chambers where people are seeing very different versions of the same facts, and that is so scary because what is really happening? So I think the role of social media is frightening. I think the way the DA's office should use it as a tool is for outreach, to tell people what we're doing, to partner that with the website that's tracking how cases are going, to make sure that the public knows if we did something unpopular, why we did it. If I decide to seek the death penalty, you'll know why. You're going to hear it from my mouth, not anybody else. If I decide not to seek the death penalty, you'll know why. You'll hear it from my mouth and nobody else. And we can do that through social media. We can reach more people. But I do think it is really, really a thing of the devil. I mean, the way it is tearing our country apart and the way it is dividing us because of the algorithms. So I think we should all be aware of that. Thank you.
Mr. Salinas, how would you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is a political position. It is an elected position. The unfortunate reality is that half the community is going to disagree with the decision you make as district attorney. That's just the reality. And that's okay. It is okay for people to disagree with the decisions that we make at the office. But it's important that we focus on not trying to make people happy within the community, because that's not our job. Our job is to make sure that justice is done on each and every case, even if it is unpopular, even if public pressure is against it. Now, what does that mean? The question that's always been asked, well, how do you get reelected? The focus of our office should not be for that next term. It should not be for re-election. The focus of the office should be the cases that exist in the office at that time, at that moment. It should exist, the opinions that should matter are the people that work there, the people that we engage with, the victims, the witnesses, not the people that make the comments on TikTok or make the comments on KSAT or all those news organizations. What matters is what is important in the office, and it's each and every case to make sure that we're doing right. Now, social media, it is a dangerous tool, but it is also a good tool. And why do I say that? Because it allows every person to potentially have a voice. It allows people to engage in the community. It also, as Mr. Locke was pointing out, allows people to view court proceedings if they want, which is important for that civic engagement. Now, what role does the DA's office have in social media? I would agree with Mr. Cohn. We can reach many people that way in providing what our message is. But what social media shouldn't be used for is for us to try to make as many people happy as possible by making promises that we cannot keep, by folding to public pressure towards cases, because then what happens? Justice doesn't happen. If we fold or we cave to public pressure, we are pursuing cases for the wrong reasons. Or if we dismiss cases for public pressure, then we are dismissing them for the wrong reasons. So how do I accept public pressure, Your Honor? I understand that there will always be public pressure. I understand that I will not make the entire community happy. That's the reality. People in this room, if it is me, they may disagree with half the decisions I make, and that's okay, as long as myself and the people that work in that office are making the decisions based on justice and based on their discretion, based on their experience, and they stay true to that principle, then we are okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wolf, how will you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
I'm not going to succumb to public pressure. It's part of the reason why I left the DA's office when Joe's there, because I think Joe has succumbed to public pressure. He's succumbed to the pressure that the media places on him. I'm running to win, but I'm not running to win and then win again. That's not my goal, and it's really not a stepping stone to anything further. And I was disheartened and disillusioned and upset with the things that I saw going on in the DA's office. The lack of training, the lack of courage, the lack of accountability. And I think social media is here to stay. If you look at the statistics, the number of people that get their news from social media is overwhelming. And nobody trusts the news outlets anymore. At least a lot of people don't. I don't trust them anymore. I was in KSAT News and they interviewed me, and then 5 days later when they announced everybody that was running, they left me off the list. So I don't trust them. And yeah, it's a bad tool for our youth. I encourage the legislators who are saying, we don't want social media for our kids. We want their minds to develop. We don't want them to just zero in on 30-second spots. But I also say that it is an outlet for me. The only reason I had TikTok on my phone was to keep an eye on my kids, to see what they were up to. And I left the courthouse one day disillusioned, so upset with what a judge did, when a judge knew that didn't have the authority to do it, but did it anyway. There's such thing called robe-itis, okay? Judge Boyd does not have robe-itis, okay? But there is robe-itis. And look, I was a judge, so I'm allowed to talk about this. And they put that on there, and ego takes over. And I saw them making decisions based on ego, and it was infuriating to me. And I had that tool there, and I said, well, let me see what I can do. Had 40,000 views in a couple of days. And I don't put my truth out there. I put the truth out there, and I challenge anybody to look at what I've said and tell me that I've lied to you. I will never lie to you. I will use that tool like I use it now, and that is to keep people informed, to let you know that those people that are in power, that are acting from ego, who are over-exercising their authority, news media isn't going to tell you that. It is a voice. It's a voice for evil, but it's also a voice for good. There are people out there on social media that post psalms and excerpts from the Bible every day, and they're inspiring. So it's here to stay. We need to embrace it. We need to embrace it for the truth, and you need to come from the right place. And I promise you, I'm not disgusting man. And Shannon, I'm growing in my capacity to love, and it may take me a minute, but I will forgive you, because I know that's what God wants me to do. And I'm not good at it every day, but I try. So, thank you all. Thank you for hearing me out.
All right, Ms. Davis, how will you handle public pressure when it conflicts with your professional judgment as district attorney? And what role has social media played in eroding public trust in the DA's office?
I think we need to hear from the public in the DA's office. I think we need to know what the public thinks. I also think that the public needs explanation for what we do, and as much as possible we can explain why things are being done a certain way. I also think it's very important that we not bow to public pressure once we realize that this is the right thing to do under the law. And the law is pretty clear about a lot of things. You have a case, and you have the elements of the case, and you need to see if you have proof on every element of that case. And so, therefore, if we have a case where we've got a bad actor, and that person is obviously guilty of that crime, I'm not going to back off from prosecution. I may try to work on some restorative justice, but I'm not going to back off from prosecution based on public pressure. As far as everybody up here said, they'll not lie to you. You ever heard that before from a politician? I'm not a politician. I signed up because I care. And I can promise you that I will tell the public the truth. And I will not bow to public pressure. As far as social media, I'm on social media. You know, I use it. I think that the voices of concern are correct. I also think it is a tool that could be used, if we use it to the best advantage, to inform the public. I do think that we need to understand that a lot of what people say on social media is incorrect. And maybe they know it's incorrect and they're having an agenda that they're trying to push. I don't know what their reasons are. Maybe they're just ignorant of the facts. But I do think you have to understand that that is a danger. And not everything you can have that you can read on social media or see on social media is the truth. But I do think it's a tool that can be used by the DA's office.
All right, so everyone, let's please give them a round of applause. And there is one question that I didn't ask, and I'm not going to ask it because, one, we're short on time. But I am going to address it this way, because there was a question about running for DA and being involved with your family and having family time. So this is how I will answer that question for everyone. I just want to let you all know, and this is me as a resident of Bexar County, not as judge. I do really appreciate it when people run for office. I don't know that people realize how difficult it is, because what I can tell you, everyone on this stage has a job, and once they finish with whatever their occupation is, then they're constantly trying to be everywhere at every time so that people will get a chance to know them. And sometimes they come home super late. Sometimes when they come home, family is already asleep. It's like, put your meal in the microwave. But I want you to know that I'm sure the public here appreciates that you all are in fact running and giving people a choice. And again, once the general election happens, I'm sure the CCSA will put on another debate to have you all here. And please, let's give a round of applause for the Community of Churches for Social Action. The chairman who allowed us to be at his church, Bishop Geoffrey Stirrup. Applause. The vice chair, Pastor Geoffrey Gardner. And I'm just going to throw out there, he has Shreveport connections. So do I. The executive director, Pastor Nelson. All right, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to give everyone 2 minutes to give your closing. And then after your 2 minutes, we will have prayer, because I always say it's great to get prayer so we can have a safe journey back to our destinations. And I'm so happy the weather has cooperated with us. So for 2 minutes, we're going to start from this end because we started on this end first. So Mr. Wolf, you have 2 minutes.
Whew, hasn't this been fun? I'm glad y'all all showed up, and I'm glad this was my first opportunity to speak to everybody, and I've enjoyed it, and it's been difficult, and thank you. Thank you all for being here and being involved. I think a lot of times when people vote, they vote either along party lines, or if they don't want to vote on a party line, then they vote by the sound of a name, or maybe they vote based on gender. And so thank you, Judge, for having us all here so that they can know who we are and make a decision that's not the person for me or that is the person for me. We all talk about our experience, and we all have it, but I will remind you that I've been doing this a long time, 22 years, as a prosecutor, as a judge for 8 years. Went back, I was a prosecutor for another 4. Now I've been doing defense work, so I really have seen all sides of it. I've seen the justice system being abused, but I've also been there for victims. I've gotten retribution for victims. But some of the most rewarding times for me was, as a prosecutor, dismissing cases against individuals who were wrongly accused. And that happens more than once. And I have prosecuted law enforcement officers. Don't get me wrong. I am pro law enforcement. When we go running out, they go running in. We need to make them feel like they can use their discretion again. And we need to give discretion back to the prosecutors so that they can do what is the right thing to do. And hey, call them out or prosecute them if they're committing crimes. I won't shy away from that. And I want you to know I am in the middle, because I'm just so tired of hearing how we think what we know is in somebody's heart based on a party affiliation. It hurt me. My own godfather, my own uncle has said, I'd rather support somebody that's never been a prosecutor than you. And I really just asked him to stay out of the race. Just stay out. Can you just do that? You don't have to endorse me. But so people play political games. I think we're all smart enough to see through it. And that's my goal. We just want to be safe in our daily lives. We want to come together, and that's what I hope to do as a district attorney. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Salinas.
Thank you, Your Honor. So when my son was born, I realized that if everything goes right, someday there's going to be a time when I'm not here anymore and he will be here. And when our daughter was born, and she was born in our upstairs living room, and I had to deliver her because we didn't make it to the hospital, I thought the same thing, that there's a realization that there will be a generation after us, that there will be progress towards a future, and that's the point of all this up here, and I appreciate everybody who came out, who gave questions. What we're up here for and making our case for is we need to elect someone who has the thoughts, the common sense to make this office the most effective and efficient it can be. Will it be perfect? No, I'm not going to promise you that. I won't make you promises that I can't keep. What I can promise you is that if it is me, I'll look at the structure of the office, effectively allocate our resources, and also bring the experience of today. I'm a current prosecutor. I am trying those difficult, the ones that we lock our doors at night about. That's me. Is it going to be a difficult job? Of course. But it is a collaborative effort. It is a community effort. It is not only one person. It is the office. It is law enforcement. It is the general public. I promise to always be honest. Promise that I want this office to be the best that it can be, because I know that someday there will be a time after. All of us in this room. And we need to make that step in the right direction. We need to get our office to an efficient manner, up to date with this technology. We need to make sure that we are prosecuting those that need to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, but also providing opportunities for those that have had that mistake in life. Thank you.
Most of us up here are pretty experienced trial attorneys. Some of the ones that didn't come have never tried a case, but there's a saying in trial attorney language that when you have the facts on your side, you argue the facts to the jury. When you have the law on your side, you argue the law to the jury. When you don't have either one of those things, you try to distract with something else. Don't be distracted today. The district attorney's race is very, very important, probably the most important race that's happening right now for this community. And what I want you to know about me personally, and the way I am as a prosecutor, is number one, I went to law school to be a prosecutor. I didn't go to law school to be a lawyer. It is all I ever wanted to do. And I was so blessed to be able to do it in the time that I did. And I told this story once before, but I'm going to tell it to this audience because my husband said I didn't explain it the right way last time, so let me do that. I tried a human trafficking case. It was a retrial. The victim was delayed and had a very limited vocabulary. And the defense attorney ridiculed her and tried to confuse her, and I objected. And for anybody who's not a trial attorney, when you object, you have to stand up. And I objected, and I objected, and I objected, and I objected so many times that the next day I couldn't walk because I had done so much exercise. All right? So at the end of that trial, when I got the max, I got to talk to the jury afterwards. And one of the jurors came to me and he said, I have never seen anybody fight like you fought for that girl. If my child is ever hurt, can I request you as my prosecutor? And so I'm here to tell you today, and anybody listening out there on the YouTube or the Facebook, you can choose me as your prosecutor. And I will make sure that all of the prosecutors that work for me object and protect the victims of this county. Thank you.
Mr. Locke?
Thank you, Your Honor. My name's Shannon Locke. I'm the only candidate who's board certified in criminal law. I'm running to be the next Bexar County District Attorney. Let me tell you exactly what that means. We have a system, a criminal justice system in Bexar County, Texas that is not working well. We're sick. And when you go to the doctor, you don't go to a doctor that is a general practitioner when you have a specific problem. You go to a specialist. The State Bar of Texas says that I'm a specialist in criminal law. We need a specialist in criminal law, and a specialist in criminal law who has never been a Republican. It's important because the Republicans want to take away our right to vote. They want to make us so that we surrender to the federal agents that are coming to our communities. They want to make sure that we're not having the full range of possibilities that is available to us. So what we need is we need a specialist. Bexar County needs a specialist, and that's what I am. I'm going to put at Bexar County's disposal all kinds of options that were never available before. Pretrial diversion programs that will get veterans out of the Bexar County Jail. I'm going to put in ombudsmen, people that the public can access when they have a problem. I'm going to put them in the 15 different divisions at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office so that you can call them, ask your questions, get your solutions, and if you can't get a solution, they can contact me. We're going to fix the Bexar County District Attorney's Office, but that fixing, it can't come from the inside. It needs fresh eyes, and it needs a fresh perspective. I will provide specialized knowledge. I'll provide a fresh perspective, and I'll provide the democratic values that are so important to be instilled in this office. Do not vote for a secret stealth candidate. Don't vote for a Republican. Don't vote for somebody who doesn't bother to show up and speak to this community on this side of town. If they didn't do it while they were running for office, they're not going to do it when they're elected. They will ignore you then too. I can promise you. So, I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for your time. Vote for me.
Ms. Powers?
Thank you. I'm not going to take 2 minutes. I think everybody's heard a lot of information. I will echo one thing that Mr. Locke said, and that is, if you do your research, find the person that is the person for you. I'm a Democrat. I've been a Democrat my whole life. My parents had me working on county judge races back home in Port Lavaca when I was a kid. I didn't even know what was going on, but that's what I was doing. I was putting together signs for a man named Chris Gonzalez. So, yes, I'm a Democrat, but vote for who is the right fit for you. Vote for who makes sense to you. Vote for who you think when they talk and they speak and the things that they're saying that it makes sense, that it's reasonable, that it's smart, and that it's informed. That's what you should do, regardless of what everybody looks like or what parties they are, all of those things. Vote for what's right for you. Today's been a little bit emotional. I'm not sure if it's the events of today or if maybe it's what Judge Boyd said just a few minutes ago. I feel very validated by some of those things because it is hard to run. I'm not a politician either. I'm a prosecutor. I started working in the DA's office when I was 23 years old, and I've been there for more than 25 years. I turned 50 last week or the week before, and everything I think I'm realizing right now is just how important our community is. I'm realizing right now how important life is. I lied, I'm gonna take the 2 minutes. I'm realizing just the things that matter. So vote with your heart, spend time with your families. I'm gonna go home and I have a 10-year-old waiting for me to take him to Target, and that's what we're going to do. But God bless you all, and thank you for letting us come and talk to you.
Ms. Davis?
I had to thank you for letting us come talk with you. I want to tell you that I'm a Democrat. I am a San Antonian. I have raised 2 sons here that are grown boys now. I still call them boys. Anyway, I have had the most experience of anybody here in a DA's office. That has taught me what works and what doesn't work. I do think that we can make improvements, and we should make improvements. And I think that I can promise you that I'm not going to come in and waste a lot of time trying to figure out what to do, because I know what to do. I can give you honest, fair justice and run the office efficiently, and an office that you can have confidence in. And I'm not going to use, excuse me, I lose my voice, but I'm not going to use my 2 minutes too, because I know you're tired, and I do appreciate so much your attention and your kindness in having us here. I'm first on the ballot, first for the job. If you forget my name, that's how you remember. First on the ballot, first for the job.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. And for those who are listening, the last day, hear me clearly, the last day to register to vote in this upcoming election cycle is February 2nd. So audience, when is the last day to register to vote? Everyone in your household who is legally eligible to vote should be registered. The League of Women Voters, which is independent, they are outside. They have documents to help you register to vote. Yes. Hi. Yes, the League of Women Voters, they're right at the back. They will help you register to vote. To those of you, if this is your first time voting, sometimes it can be a little bit frightening, I know. They actually have a practice machine. So to people thinking, oh my gosh, they're voting illegally, it doesn't count. Hear me carefully. Practice machine. So you can practice. It'll have all of these candidates listed, and you can just practice voting. So make sure you get registered. Early voting begins February 17th. Every candidate knows that, guys. So with that being said, I'm sure one of the pastors will actually pray for us.
Give Judge Boyd a great big hand for hosting this and making this happen today. Thank you, Judge Boyd, and to all of you candidates. Yes, we do want to pray for you as we close, but we want to continue to pray for you all. Our theme for our denomination is answering the call. And we do believe that this office is a calling. And I want to thank you for having the courage to answer the call to serve our community. I heard your passion today, and I know you love our city. And I appreciate that, because everyone that's here and everyone that's been looking on, they love San Antonio. San Antonio is a great city. It's a great city to raise children, to raise a family. So many people have come here from other places, and then when they come here, they don't want to leave, and they stay here, and they raise their families here. And I'm one of those people. And so it's a great city, and the responsibility that you're going to be taking on is such a very important one, and we thank you. Our organization, the Community of Churches for Social Action, we speak for the marginalized. We try to be a voice in this city for people that don't have a voice for themselves. And we've stood for many things over the years in this city for 26 years. And we're going to continue to do that. And I'm going to ask everyone to stand, and we are going to pray. And I'm going to ask one of our former chairmen, Pastor Price. Pastor Price is the pastor at St. John's Baptist Church, and he's one of the former chairmen of the Churches of Social Action. And I'm going to ask him to pray for you all and pray for everyone. Hope you give us an opportunity again to do this, as you said, Judge Boyd, when after the election and we get the final candidates that will actually take the helm of the new district attorney for San Antonio. We'd like to have that debate between the final two people that will be running for that office, and hopefully it'll be a better weather day, and it's going to be a very, very important debate, and we want to do that when that time comes. God bless you all, and thank you for coming on today. In the hands of Pastor Price.
Thank you, Bishop. Let's pray. Lord, how we thank you this afternoon for just blessing us to be a part of a very important community event. And so we give you praise and glory for that. We ask you, God, to do what only you can do, touch the candidates as well as this community, as you fill our hearts and our minds that we are in pursuit of your justice and your peace. We pray, God, you would give us traveling grace to our homes, and we'd be careful to give you praise and give you glory. For it's in that name, Jesus, I pray, amen.